We have discussed the process of calculating the present value, or what is called discounting, and we've talked about the present value interest factor, and that R and N should be synchronized, that if R is for a certain period of time, that N should also, or the time should also be expressed in the same terms. That is, if R is annual, the N should also be the number of years. Now, let's have a look at some examples and try to apply this calculations of present value considering some figures. Let's say we have got 100,000 rupees, or we will have 100,000 rupees after 1 year, because the amount is in the future. So, this 100,000 is the future value. Given that the interest rate is 10% per annum and it is annual rate of interest, what is the present value? So if I have a look at this example, I see that there is an amount which is given to us in the future, which is the future value 100,000, and the time period of 1 year, and the rate of interest, which is annual rate of interest. So the two are synchronized. So we can apply the formula of present value calculations and we can get the answer. Have a look at this. What we have done is that we have multiplied the future amount, which is 100,000, with the present value interest factor, that is 1 plus R raised to the power minus N. Here R is equal to 10% and N is equal to 1, because the future value is 1 year from now. Now, using a calculator, we can easily calculate the value of this factor, that is 1 plus 10% raised to the power minus 1. So 1 plus 10% means 1 plus 0.1, and that will be 1.1. So 1.1 raised to the power minus 1 will give us an amount 0.90909. So this amount 0.90909 is actually the value of this discounting factor, that is the present value interest factor at 10% for 1 year. And when we multiply this with the future amount of 100,000, we get the present value, which is 90,909. So this is the application of present value interest factor and the calculation of discounting. Let's continue this example and make some changes in the data. Now, if we'll get 100,000 not a year from now, but 2 years from now, given that the rate of interest is same, what is the present value? Now again, we need to see that the rate of interest is per annum, that is annual, and time is also expressed in terms of years, but instead of 1 year, we have got 2 years. Before we get into calculation, ask the question, would we get a greater future value, a present value, or a lesser present value? Let's have a look at the calculations. 100,000 is multiplied by the discounting factor, that is 1 plus 10% raised to the power minus 2, because this amount is 2 years from now. 100,000 multiplied by the value of this factor, once we use the calculator, we'll get the answer equal to 0.82645, which will then be multiplied by the future amount to get the present value, that is 82,645. We may conclude from the two examples that more is the number of compounding periods, less is the present value. So this is one general rule. अगर हम ज़्यादा दूर की फ्यूचर वैल्यू को डिस्काउंट करेंगे, यानी हमारे पास अगर डिस्काउंटिंग पीरियड ज़्यादा होंगे, एन की वैल्यू बढ़ती चली जाएगी, तो हमारी प्रेजेंट वैल्यू कम से कम होती चली जाएगी. यानी अगर हम इसी एग्जांपल को और कंटिन्यू करें और 2 इयर्स की जगह पर 3 इयर्स ले लें, तो हमारी प्रेजेंट वैल्यू मज़ीद कम हो जाएगी. इसको हम 10 साल कर दें तो ये वैल्यू और कम हो जाएगी. अगर हम इसको बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ा दें, 100, 200, 300 साल, तो आप देखेंगे कि ये प्रेजेंट वैल्यू कम होते होते ज़ीरो के बराबर भी पहुंच जाएगी. हम कहते हैं कि वैल्यू approaches to zero when there are so many years after which the future value is given to us. Let's further this example. Now, what we are doing in the third example of this present value calculation is that we are changing the rate of interest, the discounting rate. And from 10%, we are taking it up to 20%. What will happen when we increase the rate of interest? We have seen that in the last example that if the number of years are more, the discounted value is less. Now, if the interest rate is more, what happens then? Let's read out this example. If we change the rate of interest in example 1 from 10% to 20%, what will be the present value? If you look at the calculations, you would see that instead of 10%, we have put here 20%, and the power is still 1 because this future value is 1 year from now. And the answer of this factor is 0.833, which is less than what we calculated when we used 10% interest. It was about 90,000. So looking at the calculations, we conclude that when we increase the rate of interest, the present value decreases. So we say that if we increase the number of years, the time period, the present value decreases. If we increase the discounting rate or the rate of interest, the present value decreases even then. So both the factors, that is R and N, once these factors are increased, the present value keeps on decreasing. As we said that if we increase the number of years, N, to a very large number, let's say 100 or 200 years, the value will approach to almost zero. Similarly, if I increase the rate of interest a lot, let's say from 20%, if I jump to 200 or 300%, try to do it with your calculators, you would see that this value of 100,000 will approach to a very small minimal amount. So we can conclude in the nutshell that lower is the present value when the interest rate is higher. Lower is the present value when the number of discounting periods are higher.